Hello everyone, unfortunately I have to make this video. And as you might have seen on prime time, and over the last few months and over the last year, you might have seen things on Twitter, particularly of fights and different things on the Connor Street in Dublin. Obviously, the main centre of Dublin, first of all, the capital city of the Republic of Ireland, obviously. Basically, you could call it the main street in the country. And it's unfortunate, I have to say this straight, that every main street, no matter if you're in Limerick, Tipperary, you know, any other capital of any county, Letterkenny, take for example, all these streets too, main streets in towns and villages, are becoming nearly crime spots, and the centres of degeneracy. I can't say that word right, but you get what I mean. Because again, the things that is going on in the Connor Street, it's carry on, to be totally honest. The guards watching people doing drugs, and again, not hiding, doing it in the open. People urinating on the streets, people littering, you name it, crime, gun thefts. I could go forward and go on and go on. But basically mainly drugs and alcohol, people drinking openly on the street. Um, so yeah, it obviously needs to be cracked down upon, and put a stop to very very quickly. And the long arm of the law to be enforced. Obviously, the guards, as you've seen in the old team report, there was guards standing looking at somebody doing drugs, which is very typical of the Irish Gardaí. If somebody stole a candy bar, they'd be sending the armed support unit out, probably even send the army out to kill the person for stealing the candy bar because they're homeless. But that's the way the country goes. And the guards moving on homeless people again. On Garda Síochána, that'd be great. But yeah, there's nobody else to blame but the city councillors. And obviously on Garda Síochána, the leadership of Garda Síochána, because obviously the not water dam, if that's the carry on that's going on in O'Connell Street. Again, there's loads of tourists, and it's a bad luck on the country to see basically lawlessness on the main street of in Dublin. First of all, if there was a tourist, take for example, come from Europe and seeing the lawlessness on O'Connell Street that was showing, and throughout the year I've seen on Twitter and things like that. I would understand why they wouldn't want to come to Ireland, to be totally honest. I would understand why they wouldn't want to come. And obviously we do need to crack a part down on a very reason. And obviously I'm going to talk about too how we can do that, and particularly main streets in the country too, every town and every village in the country. So first of all, obviously we know it's majority of these people are young people causing the rackets and causing hassle. And obviously half of these people are scratching themselves on the door. They're sitting there doing nothing. They're doing nothing for anybody. We need to get them out morning, noon and night. Either cleaning the streets, getting them out doing hard labour. Walking from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. And they wouldn't have much time to cause hassle then, would they? Because they'd be very tired after working long hours, getting paid minimum wage, take for example. So they wouldn't be too keen on going out and causing a bit of work or so selling some drugs and things like that. So we need to make sure people who are on social welfare and things that go out and work, particularly young people, that they're not hanging around, standing around doing nothing. We have them out doing hard labour, either cleaning the streets and things like that, working long hours to tire them out, let's put it that way. Because again, and as I always say, hard labour really makes a good person, because if you do hard labour for hours and hours and end, and you're forced to do it if you cause crime or something, again, that's why I'm so in favour of harsher community services. Get your community service if you do a crime, because you should be working morning, noon and night. Because again, it takes a toll on your body and things like that, and you feel the suffering. That's the way it should be, not a kindergarten. Because to be totally honest, that's the way community services in this country. They're nearly treated as well as the people who who are living in society. But anyway, because again, if you do a crime, you're supposed to be treated harshly, not fairly. Well, fairly too, but obviously harshly. So that's obviously something you obviously need to be addressed on a national scale too. But particularly in Dublin, again, there's loads of them scratching themselves doing nothing, and they need to be put out to do some work. And I'm sure people agree on that. So that's how you deal with you people hanging around and drugs and things like that, and people causing workers, and particularly young people. Again, you get them out doing hard labour, long hours, and they wouldn't have much to do after that then. So second of all, obviously there should be designated guards on the street. As you know, O'Connell Street hasn't got a guard station. They used to have one up on the top of O'Connell Street back years ago. So obviously they're going to introduce a guard station on O'Connell Street, or in the area of O'Connell Street. And obviously, I would say they should have, again, they will have, but before that, and probably going forward, they should have guards always on the beach walking down O'Connell Street. Like that, designated guards to be always on the beach. Like no matter what time of the day it is, there are always 2 or 3 walking around O'Connell Street or around the area of O'Connell Street. That should be obviously, and there should be a lot of more guards put into the area too. Second of all, too, again, littering and things like that, and public urinations and things like that on O'Connell Street. And obviously, we use needles and etc. 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 There should be a formation of on the Dublin City Council of a local, like a local town council, but a lot local than that. A local street council, you would say, for O'Connell Street. Take for example, 5 or 6 men is designated, like on the Dublin City Council, that they're designated to always be on O'Connell Street. They're cleaning up messes and being there all the time instead of being set from, take for example, say Stephen's Green down to O'Connell Street and then back up the other side of the city to the forecourts, like say for example. It should be that there be 4 or 5 people placed on O'Connell Street and that they're there all the time. And we're not on through the night, but designated to be there. And obviously it should be called O'Connell Street Street Council or something like that. And obviously it should be probably a litter warden or somebody there to enforce either littering laws or urination laws and things like that. Obviously people urinating on the public street where there's loads of public toilets and things like that. And just as bad manners, let's be fair, and people using cans on the sidewalk too, for example, drinking cans and things like that. No, not non-alcoholic, I mean whiskey and things like that. That's happening on the street. So that's on the council level, and obviously they should do something on the council level. And then there's many other things they can do. But yeah, obviously, again, it's not going to change overnight, but it does need to change. As you see in Connaught Street, because again, it's going to turn into the west of the country. Well, it is the west of the country nearly now. Every main street in the country. And obviously, we need to put a stop. We can't allow criminals to be one of the streets and one in society. And people fearing to go onto the national streets or go onto any street in the country, particularly elderly people, young people, or anybody with disabilities or anything like that. They shouldn't have the fear that somebody might attack them, somebody might rob them, somebody might kill them, God forbid. And we have to enforce it harshly on these people who cause trouble, and make them suffer, basically, in other words, people who cause trouble, because again, that's the only way they're going to learn, if you do harsh punishment on them. As I say, long hours of community service, day in, day out, that'll make them suffer terribly. But yeah, let me know what you think and subscribe and button. Bye.